I'm Yotisha Pamar, Business Consultant of AIT Global India. Welcome to our webinar series, Leadership Summit 2021 on our fourth session. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to bring these amazing leaders to share their leadership journey and digital transformation journey. Please check our AIT Global India website for further details. Today we have with us amazing Alan Glickenhouse from the IBM Digital Transformation business. Alan assists clients with their business and IT strategy for digital transformation and their strategy for integration and the API economy. Alan is the author of over 160 papers, articles, and videos. Alan helps businesses successfully adopt a digital transformation and integration strategy that fits their environment. Digital transformation is an initiative that is being undertaken by many businesses around the world. The potential value in becoming digital business is clear, but the transformation itself is not easy. In this session, the speaker will identify the three largest obstacles businesses face in executing a digital transformation, crossing both business and IT domains, and most importantly, also identify how to overcome these obstacles. Welcome, Alan. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a great introduction. Saved me a lot of time on having to introduce myself, so that's great. So yeah, happy to be with you all today. I know it's on a weekend for me, but late on a weekend for you. So glad you're able to attend or listen to the replay. So as Yotisha said, she talked about my role. I help businesses around the world with digital transformation and API economy type thinking. I'm going to share with you what I'm seeing the businesses do successfully and not do successfully. And you know, in addition to what I share with you today, I'm going to leave the content with the AIT team so that they can distribute it to you. And at the end of the content is a list of the papers and blogs and articles that I've written on the various topics. So you can see toward the bottom of the screen here, there's a bunch of titles of topic areas that I've written about with a number after that. And the number is the number of articles that I've written in that particular area. And I will give you the links to every one of them. So if you're having trouble sleeping this evening, there's some great reading material that can help you, with your sleep problems.
Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome. So today we'll cover a few of the things I've written about, but as I said, there's much more that we'll be able to hit on. So let's start with a definition of digital transformation, because in my conversations with digital transformation, I ask a business what they think digital transformation is, and you get an amazing number of different responses to that. You wouldn't believe, how different things can be. But they tend to fall into three categories. And so I particularly like this definition. It's not one that I made up. It's from a company called the Agile Elephant. But it covers all three of the areas that I see businesses talking about when they're talking about digital transformation. So the first thing that I see many businesses, almost every business talks about, is technology. So they're talking about new digital, social, mobile, emerging technologies. And if they do that, then they're doing a digital transformation. And that's their definition of what it means to do digital transformation. They may stop at that point and think, that's all they need to do. Other businesses will go on to the next thing, which is to think about innovation and new business models. So not only are they talking about the technology differences, but also new things that they can do in their business, new business models and new things that they might try to bring to market. Another group will go even beyond that. And these are the ones that I think are the ones that are going to be the leaders in tomorrow's digital transformation, digital business world. And that's people who change the perspective of what they're doing. So historically, what businesses have done is we go to market with a particular capability. It's a product or multiple products or a service. We do something. We're a bank. We do banking things. We're a retailer. We sell things, right? So this is what we bring to market. And that perspective of what do we do permeates everything that we do. We think about new business models and technologies around those things. What this is saying is that we should reverse that. Instead of thinking about what you do, think about what the consumer the consumer of what you do wants, right? So, so let me just stick with the banking example. So if I'm a bank and people want to open a bank account, well, they go to a bank, they open a bank account. So what they want and what we have is exactly the same thing. That's great. They'll come to us and open a bank account. But if instead of opening an account that's not what they want to buy a house. Well, you don't go to a bank to buy a house. You go to a real estate, website or individual business that can help you buy a house, and that is the main focus of what you're trying to do. But part of buying a house is for most people is getting a mortgage, getting a loan to help you afford the house, and that's what banks do. So if I can, as a bank, change my perspective from what it is I do to what my consumer wants to do, then I've got a new marketplace opening for myself, and that change in perspective is a big deal, and probably one of the hardest things that businesses are fighting with to get changed so that they can become a digital business. And the three areas that I just spoke about, technology, business innovation, and perspective, are going to be the three biggest obstacles that we have to overcome. Now, around this digital transformation that's happening for businesses that they're trying to accomplish, there are other things that are happening at the same time. So many businesses out in the world are thinking about, how can I use cloud to enable myself to be more agile and to bring things to market quicker. They may also be thinking about artificial intelligence as a way to do things better. The API economy, which we'll talk about quite a bit more as we go through here, and APIs, and how can I take advantage of APIs to enable digital transformation, and microservice architecture for agility. All these things are happening as well and become part of how we do digital transformation, and also, as you'll see later, become part of one of the obstacles that we have to overcome. So let's talk about this first obstacle of perspective, right? So I've been dealing with APIs for over a decade now with businesses, and we talk to businesses about the API life cycle and the API value chain, right? So from the business assets that you have inside your company, you create web APIs or business APIs that you make available to a developer. That developer could be your own developer doing something like a mobile app, or it could be a business partner that you want to work with. They do something with your APIs to create some kind of an application that some end user is going to use. And so that's been the perspective of many businesses as they started down this API economy. And that's the problem. They're doing it entirely wrong. Your focus needs to be on the end user and what they're trying to accomplish, rather than on your business assets. If you build APIs based on your business assets, you're going to have very fragile APIs that aren't going to be as easily consumed as if you focus on the consumer and the end user. And so this change of perspective is the first big problem that we have in businesses. Changing from a provider-focused view of what do I do to a consumer-focused view of what do they want is a major obstacle, probably the hardest one of the three that we'll talk about. The challenge here is that everything we've done historically in our businesses is based on what do we do, right? The core IT systems are provider focused. Our salespeople are paid on selling what we have. It just goes to, everything is focused on what we do and not necessarily on what the consumer wants. So overcoming this obstacle requires a major change in culture inside the company, major executive and business backing. This is not something that IT is going to be successfully able to do on their own, right? So this is a big deal, and recognizing that this is not just a project that you do once, but an ongoing way that you do business is a very, very major change to the way your companies need to operate. So the value is there, though, right? If you do this correctly, you'll get a tremendous amount more revenue. And so we need to flop the triangle here, right? The pyramid. Instead of spending a lot of money and a lot of our resources on the back end, we need to start to get our focus from the outside in and drive things from the customer-driven perspective. And that'll, evolve to some of the things we'll talk about, is how do we get past this obstacle and fix it, right? So that involves largely ecosystems. We start to think about if a consumer wants something, what other capabilities do I need to bring together to provide the solution for what that customer wants? So let me give you two scenarios and ask you a virtual question here as to which one of these you think requires an ecosystem, right? So the first one on the left is a car buyer is shopping for a new car. They research all the options. They decide on the car that they would like to purchase. They purchase the car from an auto dealership, including the financing, obtaining their insurance, and so on, and they get the car. The second one on the right is a shopper wants to go in a retail store or on the web or on the mobile app and buy a present for the child for their holidays. And they know that the child wants this very hot new toy that, every year a new hot toy comes out that is really what everybody wants. And the retail store sells the toy to the consumer and the child is very happy. So if we were in person today, I would be asking you to show your hands for which one of these do you think and it requires an ecosystem. I think the answer is obvious that the one on the left clearly requires an ecosystem, right? Not only am I buying a car, but I'm getting insurance, I'm researching the car, which may involve maybe a comparison site. I'm getting a loan, I'm getting insurance, multiple businesses involved to put that solution together. The one on the right, you might say, well, that's just a retail store, right? So that's not really an ecosystem. All we need is the retail store. But in fact, if you've ever experienced this hot toy issue, you know that finding the store that actually has it is a challenge. And so there's a supply chain issue, there's inventory, there's sales, there's delivery of the toy. It also may involve an ecosystem. So almost every solution, other than the basic core values of a particular industry, anything that goes beyond that is more than likely going to need some kind of an ecosystem to put that together, or benefit from an ecosystem to put together a solution. If you don't do this, you're relying on the customer to build their own ecosystem, which means they're going to go and find their own car comparison, their own loan from whatever bank they choose, their own insurance, and they may not choose you. They may choose somebody else. So the more you can put together the ecosystem, the better. And here's a different perspective on the same idea, right? So we in our business have business offerings that we want to expose to our particular customer set. And so there's some customers out there that are looking for what we have. They come to our physical location, a retail store, a bank, whatever we may be, or our website, and they're looking for what we offer, and that's great. And they may look at our competitors as well, but they're looking for what we offer to the market, and because we are provider focused, they find it in a Google search and find our options and make a decision. But there are a bunch of other people out there that are looking for things that we are not what we offer, right? They're looking to buy a house, not get a mortgage. And so I'd like to be able to partner with people who are offering the ability to buy houses, so that when they do that, they direct them to me for their mortgage. That becomes an easier thing for their consumers to do. And we might have some kind of a financial relationship to make that happen. So we can make business APIs available that enable this partnering or ecosystem, or third-party comparison apps, or social networks, or even some kind of device situations that get our offerings in front of people who may not even realize that they need what we offer as part of the solution. And that extends our reach, gets us more customers, and gets us more revenue. So I've done whole topics just on this particular slide. So I'm going to walk through it fairly quickly here. But this is the challenge, and this is where this is going, right? So in the past, as we've tried to build this ecosystem, there's two aspects to building a partnership with another business. There's a business side where you discuss your business relationship, and there's a technical side where you integrate your transactions together. And so establishing the business relationship, we want to partner with you, here's the financial arrangement we'd like to make, blah, 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 and getting that all in place could take weeks or months to get that done. And then you hand it off to the IT organization for them to expose particular transactions or data to the partner, make sure that they can see it successfully, make sure it's secure, that only they can see it and they can't see other things they're not supposed to, have them try it. Again, that can take weeks or months to get all that technical ability in place. And at the end of doing that, you've now got one partner on board. The next partner comes along, we have to repeat the whole process. We do weeks or months again for the business relationship, weeks or months again to onboard the next partner, and so on for every partner. This is just not scalable. We can't do digital transformation or digital business working in this one-off manual kind of a way. So where are we today? Today, we're still in the weeks or months situation for how long it takes to get this business relationship going. But what we can do is start to onboard partners in days, right? So if we think about what kinds of partners we want to bring on, they're a supply side partner, they're a sell side partner, whatever things they need, we start to define what those are in advance, build the APIs that once we have the business relationship in place, I can then say, okay, now your technical people, I can give them access to my developer portal and have them consume these APIs in a self-service manner. So my effort on the part of the provider becomes much less, and their effort is also easier because the APIs are very simple to consume if we've done them well. And the next partner that comes along, even though it still takes weeks or months to negotiate the business relationship with them, we just give them access to the same APIs because we built these in a way thinking about the fact that multiple partners will be coming on board of that particular type. And so I can now start to get this down to days instead of weeks or months. So where is this going in the future? Okay, so now I'm putting in my crystal ball, predicting the future things. So rely on this as, with potential, it could be wrong, right? But let's just say that in the future, we're still at days for onboarding at a technical level. Maybe we'll get better at this. Maybe it'll get down to hours. If it does, it's not going to be a tremendous difference in value compared to days, but we might do something better there. The question is, how do I get the business relationship down to days, right? How do I onboard businesses in a way that it doesn't take weeks or months to negotiate a way for them to work with me, and then make that repeatable as well? And that's the thing we're going to talk about in the next part of the presentation. So that brings us to obstacle 2, right, which is business innovation, business drivers, and doing things in a new way. And so think about some of the companies that I've listed here. Starbucks is a coffee company. Peugeot, of course, is an automobile company, and Citi is a bank. All of them have done some new things using APIs to become a digital business that is driving new innovation. Starbucks is now doing financing. They've got a Starbucks card and make tremendous amounts of money off of the Starbucks card that you can charge coffee to. Peugeot is dealing with connected cars and getting data from the cars and making it available to their own developers, as well as selling the data to third-party partners. And Citi has been doing hackathons all over the world and integrating rewards programs with retailers and doing basically what local organizations in particular parts of the world want as new business opportunities. All of this is new digital transformation with new business models. So as we think about these new business models and moving up the chain here, again, we look at the bottom, we're thinking about APIs as a technology, right? So, and too many of the businesses that I speak to, I'm only speaking to the IT part of the organization, and they're looking at this as an integration technology between particular applications or in their company, or maybe to make something available to their own mobile developers, which are all good use cases. They're just not getting the amount of value that you might really be able to get from this. And if you work your way up to the top, I won't go through the whole chart. We really want to start to think about the APIs as a product, as a way of the business making money, and not as an IT thing, right? If we can get to the mentality, and unfortunately the word API is in this domain, think of it as business assets, right? We are making business assets available as products, and we may have a value proposition around that lets us make revenue from this. And so it goes from at the bottom of this chart being a cost savings opportunity to the top of the chart being a revenue generating opportunity. And that's really getting the value out of this and doing new business and new innovative things. So I included this chart here to describe a white paper that I wrote, which is linked at the bottom here, on business models for monetization. And I'm not going to go through all of this. If you link and get the paper, you'll see that there are actually 20-something different models that I describe, each of which has an example of a company that's doing it. And most people, when they think about making money through the use of APIs, are thinking about the second column here, the one where the developer pays you to use your APIs. We in IBM do that. If you use some things on our cloud, we may make them available as an API, and you might pay us, based on the amount of APIs, capability that you use. You might pay somebody to use your APIs because they're sending business to you. Most of the business that's done is done through the indirect model. But the one I wanted to talk about, just because it's a new, innovative kind of way of thinking about things, is the free model that Facebook uses as an example. And you all have seen this. If you go to a mobile app or a web site and it says log in with Facebook or log in with Google, same idea, log in with whatever, they all make an API available for free to other businesses that you can use to log in, and that's great. So the other business gets to identify who you are, and you get to log in without having to create an ID on every system on the planet. Why is Facebook doing this? Because it costs them a lot of money. They have to have servers everywhere that are handling this capacity of people that are logging in with Facebook. So it's costing them a tremendous amount of money, and they make this API available to anybody that wants it for no money. Well, the answer is that when you log in with Facebook, they know the site that you're logging into. You're interested in that particular item that you're logging in for, and they can then make money on the back end by charging advertisers to advertise to you, knowing that you are a good candidate to buy what that advertiser wants because you're logging into sites that deal with that. So they're not making money on a direct model from the API. They're making money on an indirect model or for free from the API, but making a tremendous amount of money, most of the revenue for the company, from charging the advertisers for doing what you're doing with their free API. So these are the kind of things that you need to think about when you're thinking about monetization. Don't just focus on that second column where it's somebody's going to pay you to do the direct thing that you make available to them. That's a great model, and it may work in some circumstances. It works in many circumstances. But more often than not, a free model, an indirect model may be the better way to go. So I wanted to talk about digital marketplaces or API marketplaces as a way that many businesses are thinking about and starting to move down the path of innovation. And so a marketplace in general, let's just forget about API for a second. Marketplaces are where buyers and sellers come together to transact business, right? So if we think about this from an API perspective, it's where a supplier of APIs can have somebody consume their APIs. And so that's the idea of a marketplace. It's typically built using an API management solutions developer portal, right? They make the APIs available there. Consumers can come in and find what they want and do self-service consumption of those APIs. I have talked to some businesses that talk about I call them simple API marketplaces. Many people would not say even this is a marketplace. It's basically their own APIs from their business made available to a set of consumers, one to many, one provider, their company, to many consumers. And so that's a normal way that people start to expose their APIs outside their company. And so is that a marketplace or not? I'll leave that to you to decide. But some people are calling that their marketplace, that this is the marketplace for their APIs. More people, however, think about a more advanced form of a digital or API marketplaces where there are many to many kind of situations, right? So here's an example. We did this with a commercial bank. So if you're familiar with the way commercial banks work, it's a large bank dealing with large clients that have a trust relationship with them, and so they've got lines of credit, they've got all kinds of financing and things that they do through that bank, and really they view the bank as a trusted partner to them. But banking is not the only thing that these customers need, and so as these customers need other capabilities like shipping something, then what the commercial bank has done, and again, this doesn't have to be a commercial bank, it could be any business, is start to think about what do my customers need besides what we do as a bank? Well, they need shipping. So why don't I vet and onboard a valid, reliable shipment capability and put that in my marketplace? And now when my customers need shipping, we can recommend that they use this particular shipping partner. And we might do that for other things, payroll or other API products. Whatever we think the consumers of this need, we're providing a service to our customers of vetting and onboarding and providing this marketplace where they can come and find these solutions that they might benefit from. This saves our customers a tremendous amount of research in figuring out, which are the valid or best shipment, payroll, and other API product companies that they might want to go use. And so we then can make revenue from this in either a direct or an indirect way based on either charging the particular participants to be in the marketplace or sharing their revenues or so on. And I'll get into that in a second, right? But this kind of an advanced marketplace where there are many providers, many consumers is a destination that a lot of businesses are starting to think about for where they want to go as a new business model kind of a scenario. So think about some considerations as you're starting to think about your marketplace. If you're thinking about creating a marketplace with many providers and many consumers, the first question you need to ask yourself is why is some consumer or why is some provider going to want to be in your marketplace? I mean, almost everybody I speak to wants to own the marketplace, not be in somebody else's marketplace, right? So given that we all want to own this, why we're not going to all own a multi-vendor marketplace? So somebody's going to start winning this, and what are going to be the offerings that you make as the owner of the marketplace that will attract other providers to be in yours? So a couple of options are you may already have a bunch of consumers that are looking in your marketplace. So you have an audience there, and it would be attractive for somebody else to be part of your marketplace. As you're starting up, that's probably not going to be true, but as you get further along, that may be true. So more likely at the beginning, there'll be some kind of an API offering synergy, like what we do and what you do works together to provide a solution for our joint potential customers. The next is how are you going to make money on this, right? And so you might do it for free. That would attract a lot of providers because they don't have to pay you. And then because you have a lot of providers, you get a lot of consumers, and that then increases the consumption for everybody. So that's a perfectly valid monetization model. But as I said on the previous chart, maybe you'll directly charge the providers based on views or referrals or some other thing. And then you might have an indirect model where you get revenue based on the amount of revenue that they get. So that's all possibility as well. What kind of value-added services are you going to provide to the providers of these APIs that are going to be in your marketplace? There's a very popular website for APIs called Programmable Web, where people can just go, search for an API on a particular topic. They're not providing any services other than making it available. It's kind of like a directory for APIs. So they're not doing really any vetting or onboarding of the APIs that are there. It might be a good API, it might be a bad API. We don't know. It's just findable in Programmable Web. Others, like in the example on the previous page, might vet and onboard these to make sure that they're a reputable company, that they can scale, that they can do things that would meet the needs of your intended audience. You're providing a value add in that case and might then justify some kind of a revenue situation. You might also provide some services to them on a technical level around security and rate limiting and billing and so on. And then, as I have alluded to, the idea of verifying these providers. Are you just going to let anybody in your marketplace, like Programmable Web does, and which is fine. That's a valid option. But if there's a bad API there, then you might hurt your own reputation, and not only that of the bad API, because you haven't defended the consumers from malicious activity. On the other hand, you might do some kind of verification that this is a valid, reputable business that can handle things, and that can get complicated as to, what kind of level of validation are you doing. So this is an important chart to think about as you've been trying to get into this business, and what things you need to consider. All right, so I wanted to give you an example of this. And DBS Singapore is a bank in Singapore that is doing exactly these things. They've created multiple sites like this one. This one is somebody who's buying a home. And so, as a bank, they are part of the home buying experience, but they're not the only thing, right? So there's multiple different kinds of home buyers: the first timer, the upgrader, the investor, and the retirement people. There's shopping for the home, there's purchasing the home, and they look at this from a life cycle perspective and moving into the home, which as I moved recently, I was thinking, boy, I wish this existed here in the United States, because it would have made my life easier as far as getting everything set up for my new home, right? So from a consumer perspective, this is very attractive. And from a DBS perspective, this is very attractive because I'm part of the people who are in this marketplace, all providing a solution to the customer where they don't have to go find these things from any number of different places. All right, last topic in this particular section is about platforms. And platforms is a challenging word because, again, when somebody says they want to talk to you about a platform, your first question should be, what do you mean by a platform? So I've just given you two options here. We in IBM have an API management platform, right? So we talk about our API management platform that performs lifecycle and runtime management of APIs and helps you, get your APIs into the marketplace and all that. And it's called API Connect. That's one definition of a platform. Another definition of a platform is about an organization that puts together independent groups and allows for the creating of interactions between them and exposes this in a way that others can conduct business. So this is the kind of platform that I want to talk about now. I mean, my business people in IBM would love me to talk to you about the first one, but that's for another day. We'll talk about the second one. So what I'm talking about here in platform is actually what I've just described. The digital platform could be equal to a digital ecosystem and an API marketplace. This is what most people are thinking about, right? I create my ecosystem for a particular business scenario, like buying a house or buying a car or saving for retirement or, putting a child in university, whatever it may be. There's a lot of things that go into that. And I can create an API marketplace that provides the solution to be consumed by a different consumer. So for many businesses, this is what they're thinking. This is the goal. This is where they want to be from a business innovation perspective. Other businesses are going even further than that. They're starting to think about digital platforms as something greater than just the digital ecosystem and marketplace. It's something that you build your business on, right? So as opposed to using these things and kind of having your business separate from this, this becomes the platform, I'll use that word, that other businesses build on. Companies like eBay or Amazon build commerce businesses for other people. The businesses that are selling individually on eBay and Amazon don't have a physical retail store. They don't have even their own website in many cases. Their website is on the Amazon store, and they're using their e-commerce, billing, payments, and so on capabilities. And it doesn't have to be retail. This could be entirely other platforms that you do this with. So think about the core capabilities that you have in your business, plus maybe some that are provided by some other vendors in this ecosystem marketplace kind of thinking. And then provide an API layer and a platform, a foundation that others don't have to invest in their own IT to build. They're going to build on your IT, and you then have a tremendous amount of potential revenue based on that, as we've certainly seen from the success of some of these major platform companies. So that's obstacle number two, right? So obstacle one was perspective, changing the perspective. Obstacle two is new business innovation, new business models. And again, I've only given you some examples of that in this marketplace and monetization idea. There's so many more that you could think about. I want to get to obstacle three, right? So all that stuff sounds great. Business executives want this digital business transformation, and 70% of them are failing because they cannot get it to work. And that's due to a lack of integration quality. If you think about what I just described to you, marketplaces, ecosystems, what's going on in your business, what's going on in these other businesses, the partner businesses you're going to deal with, every one of them is starting to think about these kinds of things. They're doing APIs, they're doing microservices, they're doing cloud, they're doing artificial intelligence. And that is creating a number of components that are located in multiple different locations. It's on the Amazon cloud, it's on the Google cloud, it's on the IBM cloud, Azure, whatever cloud it's on, plus it's on premise. Plus it's 1,000 microservices, and that's just your business. Now I've got to make it work with the other people's business as well, and theirs is all over the place too. So I've got tremendous amount of things everywhere, and I have to make them all work together. This is a big problem, and it's obstacle number 3. We can have great ideas for obstacles 1 and 2, and if we don't fix the technology to make it work, we're going to have a problem. So this is obstacle 3. So we're going to talk to you about how you can solve this with automation, closed loop, and multiple style integration. Let me just go to the next page. How am I doing on time? Okay. So I'm going to zip through a few things here because I got some important slides still to come. We have to move from manual tasks requiring experts to a more automated way of doing things. And so we can't just have these experts being the only ones who can do it in our company. We also want to make sure that what's working and what's not working gets fed back into our integration lifecycle so that we're using the results that we see to fix the things and make them work better. And the traditional approach that we've used to integrate things together, where we may have a tool that does a particular thing well and then try to stretch it to do other things, is not going to work. We need to be able to have more capabilities in the area of integration to be able to provide multiple different styles that will work together. And we'll talk about what that means in a second. So from a questions perspective, this is not just about a product that I can sell you. I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes about a capability we have from IBM to help you with this, but it's not going to solve the entire situation that we've got here. You're going to have people and process changes you're going to have to make to enable people to develop these applications and integrations more quickly with a more competent results in the area of integration. We want to have the architecture support these multiple clouds so that I can have independence between where it's deployed today and where it's deployed tomorrow. And I want to be able to scale this up and down as needed based on the growth of the systems that are underway. And so to do this, we have to move to a decentralized environment where multiple different teams can start to do their own integrations. We can't rely on a single individual group at central IT to do every integration we need. It's just not going to scale up enough. The architecture, we do want to have fine-grained deployment and deal with things like APIs, microservices, and events as ways to make these things available in a very consumable way, and have those things be deployed wherever that they're independent of the underlying cloud and not locked into a particular vendor. And the technology should be enabling that as well so that we can scale up and scale down as needed. And this is historically how we're moving forward, right? So if you are, nowhere near as old as I am and understand where this has come from, in the early 2000s, there was a focus on a centralized enterprise service bus and this thing called service-oriented architecture. And then the API economy started to come out, 10, 12, 15 years ago, where we added an API layer in front of that as a way to help the consumption. But what's happened since then is that applications have started to become more agile in the sense of deployment with using a microservice architecture. And that's great. It gave us the flexibility to start to put things out on these various clouds and have them all work together. But the problem has been, in an integration sense, that I'm still relying on the centralized team to do this integration. And if I have a centralized integration, that if I'm on cloud 1 and I want to get to cloud 2, but my integration layer is on my on-premise solution, I have to come on-premise just to get back out to another cloud again, which is just crazy. So we need to be able to deploy the integration along with the applications in whatever cloud we want them to be in. So instead of thinking about integration as a centralized thing, think about it as microservices itself, and deploy those microservices out where the applications are to reduce the latency to these different things we need to connect to. A key thing to get your head around here is the difference between APIs and traditional integration or backend systems, right? Integration, application integration, SOA kind of thinking, if you're familiar with that, is very much focused on what your business does. That's the provider focused things that we talked about early on. What we can do is provide this consumer orientation through APIs, and they work together. So the consumer orientation interacts or exposes the provider orientation. And this gives us the ability to have flexibility for creating multiple different views or consumer views on the same integration. So we don't hurt the solution we provided with a driving reuse at the back end, but we do give the ability to scale out and flexibility to expose to multiple different audiences that asset in multiple different ways, while providing the security, the scalability, and the governance around that to enable it to work. Again, a long topic for maybe another day. So let me just kind of summarize what we need to do to scale this, right? The need for integration is increasing, right? We have our business that needs more integration. We have our partners' business that needs more integration, and we need more integration between them as we especially grow up in this ecosystem kind of scenario. So the need to deliver this quality integration is increasing. How do we do that? We have to automate things. We cannot do this by relying on that central expert team to be the only people who can build integrations and APIs or use these APIs. And so leveraging the best practices and creating automation around that to speed the integration development and capturing their expertise using artificial intelligence and making that available in the governance that we provide, so that recognizing common patterns and the way things should be done and driving these lesser expert people to do things in that way will be the way that we can achieve this better level of integration. And so I mentioned we do have a product that helps with this. It's called the Cloud Pak for Integration. In this product, IBM provides all of our integration capabilities for APIs, events, application integration, messaging, security, and it's all based around the set of automation and AI capabilities. I'm not going to talk to you more about that today. I just wanted to make you aware that this exists. And if you're happy to look into it, or if you want to talk to me further about it, I'm happy to do that. It's part of a direction that IBM is going for Cloud Paks in general, which are a much more reduced set of numbers of products that we are offering from IBM that basically just give you all the capabilities we have in a particular area. So what I just referenced was the third one in this area, the Cloud Pak for Integration, but there are other Cloud Paks for business automation and AI operations and WebSphere application environments and so on. So there's a lot of several, I would say, different Cloud Paks that you might care to look into. All right, so let me wrap up because I think I'm just about at the end of time here. I did write an article for an external magazine called RealTime Insights. That was titled the same as this presentation. It's called Overcoming the 3 Largest Obstacles to Digital Transformation. Doesn't get into everything I got into in the area of ecosystems, marketplaces, and platforms, but it hits on those 3 largest obstacles in another way. So if you want to get more on that, you can read that. From a summary perspective, hopefully this all came through the presentation, so really not a lot of new information on this slide. If you're thinking about this from an IT perspective, you're not going to be successful. It's got to have executive and business backing to be successful. And so understanding why you're doing this, the strategy, the goals, what you want to accomplish, committing to putting this change in place. This is about the change in perspective, the new business opportunities. It's not just about integrating applications together. And so all of this, and then driving the use of these things and the consumption of this throughout the company as a way that we do business is needs to happen for the success of your business. So with that, I'm done. I will just scroll through these last 3 pages here. These are the links, which again, will make available to you for everything that I've written over the years. The link on the top is basically the link that gets you to everything. You just change the year number for each year's content. So if anything new comes out from me in the future, you'll get it by going to that link. But otherwise, these are categorized. And you can see the left is just basic information about APIs and the API economy. The right column has the article on overcoming digital transformation obstacles and ecosystems. Much more of the digital transformation thinking is in that column. The next page is about business and value, monetization, platforms, marketplaces are in that column. The column on the right is all about strategy, governance, and best practices from beginning to end, top to bottom, lots of content there. And the last page There's some articles on technology, including some on security, which are pretty important. And then the right column is industry examples. So with that, I will stop talking and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Alan. That was really amazing. The entire session, because being into IT sector for last 2 years, the digital transformation is on different level, what we have been observing. And the way the cloud, you have covered cloud, API economy, the perspective, but especially from the business perspective, I know when we talk to customers, we need to understand, where are the obstacles, what we need to work on before jumping up. It's not about providing solutions anymore. It's about understanding their business first.
Right.
And then from there going on, it's about doing the back calculation and then coming up with the solution. It's not about just selling the product anymore.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I was just recently talking with another business about this, and I was saying they're not getting it yet because they're talking about what they do, right? And we were talking about what we can do for them.
Yes.
We need to be talking about what their customer wants, right?
Yes.
Not what they do, right? So their customer wants something, and what they do is a piece of that. And getting the people to understand that is very, very tough.
Absolutely. It's about you have to give value to the customers, and that's the core of the business, because ultimately that's driving it.
Exactly. I mean, if I can give value to those customers, your customer will do more business, then you will do more business, right? It all comes down to that, right? Yeah. So if I just think about maximizing what IBM sells to you, I'm not going to make as much money as if I think about how you can maximize what you do by maximizing the value to your customer, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the perspective that we need to change.
Absolutely. Alan, we have a couple of questions. Do you think we can take at least one or two of them? Okay.
Yeah.
What's the role of digital maturity assessment in technology interventions, and how much important it's for any organization before implementation of digital transformation?
I did write something a long time ago on maturity and culture and all that. And I think it varies based on, the executive convincing that needs to be done, right? So if you have an executive who's bought into the fact that they need to change perspective, that they need to do, then you don't need to go through the exercise of the maturity unless you find it helpful. For others, so many businesses I talk to want to know where they stand, how they want to understand if they're behind or if they're, how far behind they are and things like that, right? So what we did was we created a model that crossed both business and IT and across a bunch of different dimensions. And we defined how businesses and technology would work at these different levels of maturity. And you can then identify where you are today, where you'd like to be, and then how to move forward. And that can be very helpful in helping and guide where, because you may not be behind in every particular aspect. There may be areas where you're doing well and others that not so well. So it can help you, plan where you need to invest to move forward. And so that can be a great way to start to show people, executives who need to buy into the decision to do this, that you are needing to invest in particular areas. So it can be helpful. But, as I had a manager of mine say once, if you've made the sale, shut up and stop talking, right? So it can only go one way from there. So,
No, I can relate to that. I can completely relate to that. So one last question, Alan, we'll take. And is the digital transformation fundamentally changing how the business create value? How does the org know if the digital transformation is working?
That's a good question. It's tough to answer that one without knowing specifically what thing you're doing, right? So if you look at the strategy column of what I've written, the first thing I talk about is setting goals, right? What are the goals for your API economy? It was what I wrote about at the time, but translate that to digital transformation. What are you trying to accomplish, right? And the last things that are in that column are about measurements. And those measurements should not be about, technical things that you've done, like how many APIs did I create, or how many people are calling my APIs, or these kinds of things. The measurements need to relate back to the goals that you established at the beginning, right? So if your goal is to generate, if you're Starbucks and you have this new financing card for people to charge Starbucks purchases on, it's not about how many people used my API. It's about how much revenue did I generate through my new financing capability, right? That's the model that I wanted to build in the first place. So metrics are related to goals, and then everything you do in the middle of that is how you get between, right? So
yeah, generally it's we have that mindset because we are programmed. I mean, maybe with the way we were working for such a long time that we work with matrices 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's done. That's not done. So maybe that needs to, again, I think there's a perspective wise we need to change how we are looking at things, and that really helps. How
yeah.
to.
The other thing I wanted to say on this one is too many times people measure what's easy to measure, right? So I can easily count how many APIs I've created, right?
Yeah.
I can easily count how many people have called them how many times. Well, guess what? The worse APIs I make, the more times they're going to have to be called, and the more people are going to need to call more APIs, right? If I have a better API, it'll only be able to be called once and do a lot of things for the person, right? So the numbers of calls and the number of APIs could be anti-metrics, for how well you're doing, right? So don't just measure the easy things to measure, which a lot of people fall into.
That's an amazing answer, Alan. Thank you for this wonderful session and insights provided on digital transformation. I'm sure our viewers are delighted and they have really enjoyed these lessons. And the way you have presented, that's phenomenal. Any final words for our viewers?
Yeah, I'm always happy to chat with people about this. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to have a follow-on conversation. I'm happy to do that. I learn from my discussions with others, right? So it's not like I can sit here in my house nowadays, not going anywhere, and so I look forward to talking to you all and hearing what you're thinking about and what things you're trying to do.
Thank you so much, Alan. We are getting this. Thank you, Alan, for the wonderful sessions from multiple joiners, viewers today. So it's really helpful.
Good, I'm glad.
Thank you everyone for joining us and being part of our Leadership Summit 2021 journey. It wouldn't have been possible without your tremendous support and encouragement. Stay safe. Thanks, Alan. Take care.
Bye.